Today's story is about a hidden murder case that occurred inside a Japanese Shinkansen train. On the night of June 9, 2018, at 9:42 p.m., Japan's high-speed railway Shinkansen 265 departed from Tokyo Station bound for Shinosaka Station. Since it was late, most of the passengers on the train were either asleep or quietly resting in the serene atmosphere. As the train was passing Shin-Yokohama Station, a man sitting in the back of car 12 slowly got up from his seat. He appeared to be in his early 20s. Not long after he stood up, another passenger inside the train yelled to run away. The passengers were puzzled and looked towards the direction of the noise, where they saw a man holding a small axe in his hand. He quickly turned and struck a woman sitting to his right with the weapon, causing her to scream and resist. At that moment, a 38-year-old company employee named Kotaro Yumida, who was sitting in the seat behind the woman, intervened. He had just finished a 2-day training in Yokohama and was on his way home where his wife awaited. Known for his inability to tolerate injustice, he couldn't just stand by and watch. He threw himself at the man with the axe, subdued him, and yelled at people to run away. In an instant, chaos erupted inside the train as passengers scrambled in panic. The woman who was attacked fled, bleeding. The assailant pushed Yumida aside and then attacked another woman who was in the aisle with the axe. Yumida didn't give up. He stood up again, subdued the assailant, and began wrestling with him. 2 minutes after the incident, a fleeing passenger fortunately pressed the emergency alarm on the train, and the conductor, after being informed of the situation, rushed to the car. When the train staff arrived at car 12 where the incident occurred, the corridor was already covered in blood, and the agitated assailant was swinging the axe. The staff used a seat cushion as a shield to approach the assailant slowly, ensuring he couldn't harm other passengers until the police arrived. At 10:03 p.m., the train made an emergency stop at Odawara Station, the next stop. The police waiting at the station then apprehended the assailant on the scene. The injured passengers were immediately transported to the hospital. This incident is the shocking Shinkansen train incident that occurred in Japan in 2018. Unfortunately, Yumida, who threw himself to subdue the assailant, had already passed away. During the police investigation, it was revealed that the assailant had stabbed him multiple times with an axe, and upon autopsy, 60 wounds were found on his chest, shoulders, and overall body. 2 female passengers suffered serious injuries, but thankfully their lives were not at risk. There were approximately 880 passengers on the train that day, and thanks to Yumida's sacrifice, the police explained that there weren't many casualties. Why did the perpetrator commit such a crime? When he was apprehended, he didn't resist. He was peacefully arrested. He confessed, "I tried to kill the woman by the window, but unfortunately, I failed. However, the person who tried to stop me was pretty cool." The perpetrator of this incident was Ichiro Kojima, who was 22 years old at the time 2018. He resided in Nagoya and had boarded the train with a ticket from Tokyo Station to Nagoya Station that day. His father was an ordinary company employee in the automotive industry, while his mother had run for city council elections and later engaged in civic activities. Kojima, born into such an ordinary household, had a somewhat quiet and relaxed personality since childhood. He had difficulty speaking until the age of 5, which led to his mother sending him to kindergarten, where he received an unexpected diagnosis. He was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome. Growing up, he seemed fine in daily life, but he lacked social adaptation skills and empathy. He was indifferent to issues that interested others but had an almost obsessive level of interest in what intrigued him. Consequently, making friends was difficult for him, and he displayed abnormally strong stubbornness. Although Kojima's mother thought he would naturally improve as he grew older and thus refused to take him to the hospital, his kindergarten teacher was concerned and advised his mother to take him to a special school or hospital. However, his mother dismissed it, insisting that her son was normal. When Kojima turned 14, he felt he was different from other children and wanted to go to the hospital by himself. Sadly, his mother, citing the high cost of medication, forbade him from going. As a result, he became increasingly unable to adapt to society. After entering middle school, he even refused to go to school altogether. However, his parents were busy working and didn't have the time to pay attention to Kojima. When he was in the second year of middle school, he asked his parents to buy him a new water bottle, but strangely, his parents bought a new water bottle for his sister and got one for him from a second-hand market. This made Kojima angry, and he stormed into his parents' bedroom screaming. He had a knife and a hammer in his hands. Feeling threatened, his parents reported to the police, and Kojima eventually left home and lived in a youth protection facility. He stayed there for 5 years without causing a single problem. Surprisingly, during that time, he graduated from vocational school with excellent grades in just 3 years. The teachers who dealt with Kojima at that vocational school later said they couldn't believe it when he was identified as a suspect in the Shinkansen murder case. After graduating, Kojima became a certified electrical repair technician in 2015 and got a job at a machinery repair company. Initially, he did well at work and had no major issues with interpersonal relationships. However, shortly after being transferred to a new factory, he quit his job because he was bullied at work. Although the media didn't report specifics, colleagues from the company said his boss made remarks like, "I have no intention of teaching anything to someone like you." Losing his job, he returned home and started playing games and watching cartoons in his room. Seeing this, his parents simply said, "You're an adult now, figure out your own life," and abandoned him. Eventually, starting from October of that year, Kojima began running away repeatedly. When asked why he ran away, he said his parents were trying to kill him. His precarious life continued, and it wasn't until 2017 that he started receiving psychiatric treatment. He was diagnosed with autism at the hospital and stayed there for 2 months for treatment. After being discharged, instead of going home to his parents, he went to his grandmother's house, whom he relied on the most. His parents, feeling that Kojima kept causing trouble, completely handed him over to his grandmother and made sure he couldn't come back home. Shockingly, his parents even changed his surname to match his grandmother's. Living at his grandmother's house, Kojima had some peaceful days under her care for a while. However, as he continued to just play games at home, his grandmother became worried and told him to go out and work. But he took it as nagging and left a note saying, "I will commit suicide," before leaving his grandmother's house. For over 6 months, he roamed the streets and became homeless, using his grandmother's pension card for living expenses. One day, Kojima contacted his grandmother. When they spoke after a long time, his grandmother, feeling sad, asked if she could just consider him a non-existent child. Taking his grandmother's words seriously, he became obsessed with the extreme idea that he truly had no family around him. This led him to plan the murder indiscriminately. During his trial after being arrested by the police, he said he wanted to commit a crime that would keep him in prison for life. When the prosecution showed him the axe he had used and asked if it was the weapon he used, he said he didn't need it anymore. He said, "When I get out again, I'll just use a different tool to kill someone." He showed no signs of remorse. Ultimately, in January 2020, the Odawara branch of the Yokohama District Court sentenced Kojima to life imprisonment. However, as soon as he received the sentence, he suddenly stood up, rejoicing and cheering loudly. Currently imprisoned, he refuses visits and lives a self-isolated life. But the shocking events don't end here. When reporters went to Kojima's family after the incident, his father adamantly denied that he was his son, sparking outrage among the Japanese people. Since this incident, security personnel have been stationed on Shinkansen trains since March 2019, and from April of that year, selling unpackaged knives on trains in Japan was completely banned. It's a horrifying crime committed by a man with Asperger's syndrome. His wielding of the axe was an expression of anger towards neglect and abandonment, and innocent lives were lost because of it.